and away we go. Okay, so thank you very much for coming today. And today I'll be talking about the research that our lab does relating to the effect of the environmental design and aging on human movement and balance recovery. So I come from Toronto Rehab. I'm also based a PhD candidate at the Institute of Biomaterials and Biomedical Engineering at U of T, but my lab is based in Toronto Rehab. So just to give a bit of information about Toronto Rehab for those of you who are not familiar with it, we have 11 different teams at Toronto Rehab covering different research areas. So these are everything from mobility to AI and robotics, and I'm part of the home, community, and institutional environments team. So we're a multidisciplinary team of engineers. So I come from an engineering background, but we also have clinicians on our team, industrial designers, rehab scientists, psychologists, and others who are involved in the research process. And our research really revolves around preventing injury and illness and enabling independence, particularly in older adults. And the focus of our lab, and based in the Challenging Environment Assessment Lab, is on the effect of the built environment and the design of the built environment on human movement and fall prevention. So we're a team who's supervised or led by Alison Novak, and it's a team of mostly students, but a postdoc and a research associate as well. And we work in the Challenging Environment Assessment Laboratory at Toronto Rehab. So this is in the basement of Toronto Rehab. On the left, you can see we have a giant robotic platform which we're able to move in different directions. And we do this to simulate challenging environments. And this is one of the labs that can go on this motion base, but we use this lab to simulate environments, particularly from within the home or public spaces. So our area of research focuses on, we can put these rooms on the right-hand side are within the box on the left, so we can simulate a stair environment or also a bathing environment. So these are just two of the types of labs that we use. So when we're studying fall prevention, we do it through a number of different measures. And so I'll talk a bit more about why we're studying it and the types of things, but this is just kind of an overview of how we do our research. So we use reflective markers and motion capture cameras, so similar to what they do in a lot of animation or movies. And we use these systems to track the body in space, and so in three-dimensional space. So we can see how fast someone's falling, how quickly their foot is slipping, how quickly their wrist is moving towards a handrail. And we can use these measures to quantify balance loss and balance recovery. We also use an instrumented handrail, so we can see how much someone is pushing or pulling on a handrail to see how they're using it in their balance recovery. And we also have, for all of our studies, we have a participant in a safety harness so that we can prevent injury due to falls. We don't want an actual fall occurring and someone to get injured. So we have the participants in robotic, so it can track someone around a room, and it's a safety harness that will prevent injury from happening. So we want to create challenging environments, but in a safe and controlled way. We also use regular video cameras to study or determine the strategy that someone's using in their movements, any errors that they're having in their reaction, so for example, an error in grasping, and the grip type that they're using. So these are some of the different ways that we can quantify balance recovery and balance risk or falls risk. So we do all this with the aim of three different things. So our overall objective is to enable independence and prevent injury and illness, specifically related to falls. So we want to reduce the risk of falls, and we do this by making recommendations to the public through instances such as this or other examples where we're speaking to the public directly. We also provide best practices for different environmental features such as stairs or bathrooms for clinicians, and that means that they can recommend things to their patients that are backed by science. And we also make recommendations to national and international codes and standards so that we can have a wider spread impact of our research. So now we get into the why we're doing our research. So falls are the second leading cause of accidental death worldwide, and they represent around 85% of older adults' injury-related hospitalizations. And this means that 1 in 4 older adults in Canada will experience a fall this year. So this is a huge percentage of older adults, and this is expected to only increase as the population increases. And this results in currently an $8.7 billion estimated annual healthcare cost. So this is both indirect and direct healthcare costs in Canada. So this is a huge financial, but also it affects people's quality of life. It affects their mortality, and it affects their ability to have independence. So there's lots of reasons why falls are important. So I want to know, where do falls occur? So according to the Public Health Agency of Canada, around 50% of falls occur in the home, 17% occur in institutional environments, and then 7% occur in schools, other institutions, or public areas. So when we think about how do falls occur, a fall occurs when there's an initial balance loss, so maybe someone bumps into you, you get dizzy, you lose your balance, you slip on the ice outside, and then there's an inability to recover your balance. So often we're able to have these little bumps or jostles and still recover. You continue walking, you have to look a little silly, maybe take a few extra steps, but you're able to recover your balance. However, when a fall occurs, it means that there's been an inability to recover your balance. So these are the two ways that we can look at preventing falls, either through preventing that initial balance loss from occurring, or through improving people's ability to recover their balance. So this is where our lab focuses its efforts. So there are two high-risk areas within the home environment. So we study public environments as well, but particularly because such a large percentage of falls occur in a home, there's two main environments that we're interested in. And these are bathrooms and stairs. So falls on stairways and steps are the third most common type of fall, and 13% of older adults' injury-related falls occur on stairs or steps. Because we're interested in the falls that result in injury, 76 to 92% of these injury-related falls on stairs occur during stair descent. So often we fall more often going up the stairs, but you're able to catch yourself and you don't often end up getting injured. Falls downstairs, because you're already moving down the staircase, there's already that initial momentum, they can result in, or they more frequently result in injury-related falls. When looking specifically at falls during stair descent, about 50% of these falls occur where your body tips forward down the stairs, and 40% occur going backward, and then about 10% are sideways or some other type of balance loss. Oops. So if we go back to this initial balance loss plus the inability to recover your balance, it can get a lot more complicated. So this is related to how the ability or inability to recover balance. So once this initial destabilization occurs, a fast and appropriate reaction is needed. So we need to immediately respond, and you can do this by either stepping or an arm reaction, or a combination of the two. And once a stepping reaction has been initiated, particularly when you think about stairs, you need to think, has your foot correctly contacted the step? And this is challenging on stairs because if you don't contact the step correctly, it results in further balance loss and inability to recover your balance, and you're more likely to fall. And then if you're able to correctly contact the step, you need to generate enough force or moments in your legs, in your core, to get your body upright again and to continue the stair descent. In terms of an arm reaction, there's lots of things that we can do. So sometimes I'm sure you have had this happen where your arms go up out to the side of you to slow your momentum, to counter your momentum of your slip. So we can just use our arms to recover our balance. We can also use the handrail, or if there's something in the environment to grasp, for example, a wall or a table or a handrail. And so this can be done if you're proactively using it. So if you have your hand on the handrail when you start your fall, you just need to generate enough force to slow your momentum. However, if you aren't currently using the handrail, so if you have something in your hands, or if you just walk down the stairs without using handrails, as a lot of us do, you have to reach to contact the handrail first. So you need a fast and accurate grasp of the handrail, and then you need to be able to grip it hard enough and accurately enough to be able to generate forces to slow your momentum. So what we wanted to do in our lab was, there's little known about the biomechanics of falls on stairs. Because falls are a dangerous situation, it's not known. Often we don't actually induce them in a lab environment. So we wanted to know, how do people lose and then recover their balance on stairs? So at Toronto Rehab, we're doing this in both forward and backward balance loss during stair descent. And we do this in this robotic platform. So the room on the left, we're able to shake the room as a person's walking down the stairs, and it induces a balance loss. So it disturbs their balance to simulate as if you missed a step, or if you thought a step was shorter than it was, and your whole foot didn't contact the step edge, and you dropped down to the next step. Oops. We're also inducing backward balance loss. So this study has been complete. And what we did was we installed basically a mini treadmill on one of the steps. And while you can see it on the right-hand side as it looks different, when we actually used it in the stairs, we made all the stairs look the same as the mini treadmill, so people weren't able to tell which was the treadmill step. And because we know that if people are aware a fall is going to happen, they're able to regain their balance more effectively than if you were just to fall in real life. And in real life, we aren't expecting falls. So we use deception in order to induce a more realistic fall. So we told people that it was just regular walking. In these trials, they knew that a balance loss was going to occur later, and we told them that we would let them know when that part of the study was happening, so they weren't expecting the balance loss. So what we found was that, normally I would have showed a video here so you could see how it looks like in the balance loss, but what we found was that firstly we were able to induce falls that looked similar to falls in real life, but that people had very different responses to this balance loss. So we tested 15 younger adults. 3, there was issues with the setup, so we weren't able to collect good data from them, but we did have one person who relied on the harness, so they would have fallen in real life if they hadn't been attached to a harness. And we found 3 people just used their arms to respond. They didn't grasp a handrail, they didn't try and grasp anything in their environment, they just lifted their arms and stepped down the staircase. Oops. We also found that, so we had a guardrail in place. This was a foot higher than the maximum handrail height that the building code allows. So this was there to protect them from falling off the staircase. Wasn't supposed to be grasped, and we actually told people not to grasp it. However, we found that 2 participants grasped the 54-inch guardrail. And one of these participants did so because they had an error in their initial grasp of the handrail. So they went to grasp the handrail, they weren't close enough, or they thought that they were closer than they were, so they missed it and overcompensated and then needed to grasp the guardrail. The other participant was quite a tall participant, and when they grasped, the first thing that they contacted was this guardrail, so they grasped it to regain balance. What was also interesting was that there was lots of errors in grasping generally. So on the left-hand side, sorry, you can see a participant attempted to grasp the handrail, but actually missed the handrail and grasped the structure that was supporting it underneath. On the right-hand side, there's two different types of responses to grasping the handrail, but both people contacted the handrail, so collided with the handrail before actually grasping it, which slows down your time to contact and means that you're falling further before you're actually grasping the handrail. So there's a high percentage of errors, and there's also a lot of variability in how people use the handrail. So some people only basically had a light touch on the handrail, while others were applying around 30% of their body weight to the handrail, so applying quite high forces. So this study was just done with younger adults. However, we know that older adults have slower reaction times typically, and also their strength typically decreases with age. They're also been shown in previous studies to be more likely to rely on a handrail, so to want to use it proactively, whereas younger adults typically use more reliant on reach to grasp reactions. And older adults in level ground studies have been shown to take more steps, so to take multiple steps to recover their balance, and are able to withstand lower perturbations or lower levels of destabilization than younger adults. So this brings us to how can we reduce the risk of falls? Now that we know how people, or have an idea of how people recover a balance loss, what can we do to reduce their risk? So we study a number of different modifiable environmental features. There are lots of ways that you can reduce the risk of balance loss. You can improve strength. You can look at behavioral changes, look at the footwear that people are wearing, but we're looking at the environmental features, as this is one way to have a widespread change through changes to a building code. So some of the features that we're looking at are step dimensions, the edge highlighters, so the contrast on the edge of the step, the stair nosing shape, so the curving at the edge of a step, handrail shape and size, handrail height, and then there are many more other features, but these are the ones that our lab is currently studying. So first I'll talk about some step dimensions. So a study done in the UK in 2008 surveyed a number of homes in the UK and checked what the length of their step was, and also the frequency of falls in the home. And they found that the shorter steps, which you often see in Toronto, had a much higher risk or much higher frequency of falls. So we knew that this was the case. We wanted to study the biomechanics behind it, so related to fall risk. So we did a study. Alison Novak was the study, the primary source on the study, and she found that with increasing step length, the pitch of your trunk, so how tilted over you are, increased with shorter steps. And which means that in the event of a misstep or an overstep where you step over a step, this increased trunk flexion increases your risk of a fall.
Are you talking about the length? Are you talking about the height or the width here?
So, great question. So the tread length. So where your foot goes, how much beyond your foot or within your foot you're stepping on it.
So can you tell me again about that?
Sure, just let me show you. So the tread length is in the blue. So that was what we are looking at, that's changing that dimension to be, so greater step length or tread length meant that you had a lower risk of falls. It also meant that you had a higher margin of stability. So this was looking at from left to right is the 8-inch treads versus 14-inch treads. And the 14-inch or 13-inch treads had higher margin of stability, which decreases your risk of a fall. So we were able to use this in conjunction with the research which had been done in the UK. And in 2015, Alison and the team were successful in submitting a successful change for a building code request. So what happened was prior to 2015, the maximum or minimum step length was 8 inches. However, now it's been changed to 10 inches, which drastically decreases the risk of falls. So it's a great success and an indication of how research can support changes to policy. So next, we wanted to look at different features of the stairs. The next feature is looking at the edge highlighter. So vision loss, which is common in all Canadians, but particularly prominent in older adults, where about 80% of older adults have some type of vision impairment. When you're looking at steps, if there's a step edge highlighter or not, it affects how able you are to see the edge of the step, which reduces or changes your likelihood of tripping or slipping or misstepping a stair. So as you can see, so there's no highlighter and with highlighter. In Canada, there's no guidelines on the required contrast on step edges. So in some countries like the UK and Australia, they have a percent contrast that it should be. However, it's not clear how much this is impacted by science or if there's science to support it. So what we wanted to do was study the effect of contrast of the step edge with intact and blurred vision. So we simulated cataracts using blurred goggles and tested people at low and at normal lighting conditions. So to simulate as if you're walking down the stairs at night, if you want to get a glass of water maybe, and don't turn on all the lights, or if you're walking around in normal daylight, and looked at 0% contrast, so all the stairs were completely black, up to 70% contrast, where you can see there's lighter gray on the step edges, to see how this impacted the biomechanics of people walking downstairs and your fall risk. So this is ongoing research, so we don't have all the results. But one early result is that looking at heel scuffs. So when your heel contacts the step, the riser behind your foot, which can cause a destabilization. So we want lower heel scuffs. And what we found was the biggest difference was between blurred vision and normal vision, which is not surprising. However, when you look at the blurred vision, so the yellow and the gray bars, it's noticeable that with lower contrast, so on the left, there's higher number of heel scuffs, which is problematic. So the next step in this research is to look more about how it changes or affects your biomechanics of stair descent, to use this to inform a building code change or a standards change to create an optimal level of contrast or a minimal acceptable level of contrast on stairs to ensure that stairs are safe and people are able to see the edge of the step. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about is switching more towards the handrails. So once a balance loss has occurred, handrails are or can be an effective way to recover your balance for the people who use them. However, the current building code defines permissible handrail shape and size for home environments based on their graspable portion. But this can mean a lot of things. It's quite vague. What's graspable for me is quite different from my grandma or for an NBA basketball star. So it means a lot of different things. And this may permit handrails that do not allow effective balance recovery. So we wanted to know what is the effect of handrail shape and size on balance recovery, on grasping reactions. So at the bottom, you can see these are two commercially available handrail cross sections purchased at a lot of home hardware stores. And then we tested some other comparable shapes and sizes to see what was the effect of handrail shape and size. So we tested this with younger and older adults because we think it's very important that we include both populations, as this is something that affects both groups. And so far, as expected, in both the forward and backward direction, younger adults were able to withstand much higher perturbations or much higher levels of destabilization than older adults. So what we did for this study, we wanted to induce balance loss, but at a level that was at the maximum reliance on the handrail. So basically, we wanted to have people using the handrail as much as they could. So what we did for the study was we started at a low speed of room. The room shook at a low speed, and then we increased it incrementally until a person had to step or rely on the harness. So we were getting people to their maximum. And this differed for older and younger adults. In the forward direction, it also differed between handrail cross sections. So people were able to withstand a higher perturbation at with the 1.5-inch handrail than they were with the 2.5-inch round and both sizes of the tapered handrails. So this indicates that it may be related to the handrail cross section. However, we're going to do further analysis on how it affects center of mass control, so how quickly you're falling in the future. So this isn't, oh yes, higher perturbation magnitude is better. It means that you're able to withstand a bigger, so if you fell more or fell faster, you would be able to withstand it. So this brings us back to how we recover from balance loss. And one of the ways that we do it is through reactive grasping. But as we talked about, a fast and accurate reaction is required. So we're looking into the effect of aging and also handrail cross-section on the speed of grasping. And what was interesting was at the moment, with the people that we've studied, the time from platform movement to handrail contact was not significantly affected by age or handrail cross-section. However, younger adults did reach higher peak velocities than older adults in their wrist velocity. So it means that people are using a different strategy to respond to the balance loss. And we're still looking into this data to look for if there was differences in reaction time, differences in the profile of this movement, but these are some initial results which are quite interesting. Next, we looked at the accuracy of grasping. There weren't big differences between the accuracy for older adults and younger adults, so we've grouped them together for this case. And what we found was that for the 3-inch decorative and both sizes of the tapered handrails, there were much higher errors with these handrail cross sections. So in particular, one of the main errors that was a difference is this. In orange, you can see the sliding, so small slide. So this means that a participant may not have had a good enough grip on the handrail to prevent their hand from sliding along it. And this was further looked at when we were looking at the type of grip someone used. So for the tapered handrails, people had, so the S handrails, people had to adjust their grip during their reaction, which means that their initial grip was not adequate or was not sufficient. So as I said, this analysis is still early, and we're looking at the force generation on the handrail and also the effect of the handrail shape and size on your center of mass control, because this is really important when analyzing or determining the effectiveness of a handrail. But these are some early results. And we've also looked at handrail height. So this study was completed, this is a handrail at U of T. And what was interesting in this study, so we tested a number of different handrail heights with the same handrail cross section, so looking just at height now. And that handrail height did not affect the handrail contact time after perturbation onset, so after platform movement. And this was, sometimes we think that if a handrail is higher, you have to take longer to get to it, but this actually wasn't the case. And in fact, the risk of hand-to-handrail contact or collision prior to actual grasping generally decreased with increasing handrail height. Even some of the low numbers were beyond the allowable height in the Ontario Building Code. So this was interesting, and it further said that as handrail height increased, the demands of handrail grasping, so the force you needed to apply, actually decreased without compromising your ability to your center of mass control. And so while we still need to look at the effect of, so for example, range of motion, which may be a concern with higher handrails, it did show that there should be some further thought into the effect of handrail height and what's allowable within the building code. Yes, so there's a range of heights tested, and these are overall results, but yes, handrail height was, or person height was taken into consideration. Yeah.
So if I'm interpreting this correctly, this is the ability for someone, the height difference of the handrail and their ability to grab it.
Exactly.
What about if they're holding the handrail on the way down, does the heights help or hinder their ability to recover from the fall if they're already?
So what we found was that, so this was not my study, but the author of this one, I think she's online, but so if she wants to contribute, that would also be great. But what they found was that hand in place, if you're already proactively using the handrail, you have to apply much lower forces because your hand's already kind of stabilizing you in the response. I believe that the height, there is a similar trend in both reach to grasp and hand in place. But if Vicky has other comments, that would be great.
And I was just going to add to that, the comfort, like when I see the picture you have, this
Yeah.
guy is never going to proactively hold on to it. So, Philippa is correct.
Okay.
So there's an issue about proactive use and comfort,
Yes.
depending on whether it's in the right range, because this guy would be terribly uncomfortable.
Yes, and that was, I think, where some of the higher handrails were thought to be less comfortable, but it showed that actually in a recovery response, they may be more effective to a certain extent. Yeah. So next we're going to shift into the other environment that, as Vicky has just updated, we found that as handrail height increased, it disappeared. Oh, yes. So Vicky's just updating. We found that as handrail height increased, the ability to withstand perturbations improved, and trunk control in both young and older adults improved, and this occurred for both proactive, so when you're using your hand already on the handrail, and reactive grasping. Thanks, Vicky. Okay, so now moving on to the bathroom environment. So this is the other area of research in our lab because it's another area where there's large amounts of falls. And so 1 in 5 falls in older adults actually happen in the bathroom, and they account for about 1/3 of all fall-related emergency room visits in older adults. So this is quite a considerable portion, and this means that about 1 in 4 bathroom-related injuries require hospitalization, and this is commonly due to fractures or internal injuries. And a large portion, so 70% of these falls occur during transferring. So this means like stepping in or out of a bathtub, or up, like going from seating to standing within the bathtub, or standing from a bath seat. Yeah.
Just to show the difference whether there's handrails and that sort of assistance there or not, is there any statistics for that?
So it's quite hard to get the injury statistics for that. It's something that we would love to have. Oh, sorry. The question was, is there any statistics on if there's a handrail present or a grab bar present compared to no grab bar or handrail present? A lot of the injury statistics, so they don't actually specify in a hospital visit whether there was a handrail or grab bar present. So that's actually one of the challenges that we're facing, is that it's hard to know when falls occur on stairs. We know that they're a huge problem. We don't actually know what percentage of them had a round handrail in place, or what percentage of them had 8-inch steps or a grab bar present in a bathroom. So it's challenging in that way. We're hoping that we're simulating falls in a bathroom, and we can, I'll get to some of the data relating to how that a handrail versus no handrail use affected the falls, but we're doing it in a simulated environment. So there's not, from what I've seen, there's not a lot of information out there on the effect in real life. We just don't take that information when we're collecting data in hospital rooms, unfortunately. We would love it. Yes, so in terms of grab bars, grab bars are a good way to reduce the risk of falls in a bathroom, particularly in transfers. But current standards and clinical recommendations are generally based on studies related to the individual's perception of comfort, safety, and ease of use. However, more evidence is needed to quantify the effectiveness of the grab bar for fall prevention. And this is particularly looking at the placement of the grab bar in the bathtub and its orientation. So vertical, horizontal, diagonal, what is the most effective in terms of fall prevention? So we're doing this through another simulated environment. So we have, this is inside that motion base that we've shown before. We have a setup with two different bathtubs in the environment. There's a vertical grab bar on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, there's a horizontal grab bar, and we can change the height of this grab bar. So we test it at two different handrail height or grab bar heights. And we're looking at how it affects the biomechanics of, yes. So here's one grab bar, that's the horizontal, and that can be changed. It can be raised up or down. And the vertical grab bar is over here. So yes, we change between the bathtubs during testing, but we can test out both environments. And these are using instrumented grab bars, so we can see how much someone is pushing or pulling on the grab bar. We also have the harness instrument. You can see what force someone's using on the harness, so how much they're relying on the harness in this situation. So unfortunately, there would be videos, but we're studying this in both reactive and proactive handrail use. And similarly to falls on stairs, we've seen a number of different strategies used. So while most people would either use one hand proactively or reactively grabbing the grab bar, sometimes we've seen people using two hands on the grab bar, particularly in the vertical setup, or not grabbing the grab bar at all and relying on the harness, or being able to regain their balance without using the grab bar at all. So there has been a number of strategies used. And just some results from this study is also ongoing, so it's in the early stages of results. But there's a big difference between younger and older adults in terms of comfort exiting a slippery bathtub. So what we do is we make the bathtub floor slippery using a soapy solution, and then as they're exiting the bathtub, we shake the room a little bit, just a little, to destabilize them. And to simulate as if I know I've done it, when you're exiting a bathtub and your foot slips. And so to simulate that environment. So most of the older adults, only one older adult was willing to complete the task using a reactive grasping. Most, like all the other older adults, wouldn't do it unless they could have their hand on the handrail, or on the grab bar, sorry. Whereas about only 40% of younger adults grasped the handrail when they were told they could. And that we noticed a difference. So when people did use the grasp bar, either reactively or proactively, for younger adults, there were 8 trials where there was some harness reliance, so just a little bit of load in the harness, and 2 where they had harness reliance that would indicate a fall. They wouldn't have been able to recover their balance without having the harness. Without a grab bar, so if they didn't use the grab bar, there was 14 trials that had some harness reliance. So it was a difference. This data is still being analyzed. So another thing we're going to be looking at is the center of mass control. So how quickly someone's losing their balance, how quickly someone's falling, and other measures in terms of fall risk. Yes.
Built or renovated shower stalls,
Mm-hmm.
and bathtubs are on the way out.
Yep.
Do you also study shower stalls?
So we haven't yet. I think it's something that would be interesting to follow up, because Oh, sorry. Because in real estate, they're starting to see more homes with just showers. So are we also studying shower stalls? So at the moment, no, we haven't studied showers. Bathrooms provide a more bathtubs provide a more challenging transfer because you have to cross a higher obstacle. So that was the first area of research. So presumably, if a grab bar is appropriate for a bathtub, it would also be appropriate for a shower. But it does provide a different, interesting comparison when thinking about the benefits or challenges with bathtubs. Yeah.
Are you taking into account grip strength?
Yes. So we do people's grip strength to get an idea of our demographics, and typically our older adults have lower grip strength. I do the same for the handrails testing that we do. We haven't been doing any corrections or, but we are accounting for it in like that it's happening, and we're publishing those differences as well.
Yeah, that was thinking that would be an important predictor to see if it explains to different outcomes.
And even thinking within a group, so the question is about grip strength. Are we testing it, or are we accounting for it in the study? And I think it's going to be interesting if that is a explanatory variable within the older adult, within the younger adult population, because even within those groups, there can be quite a range of grip strengths. So there are some barriers to installing permanent grab bars, at least at the moment. Sometimes there are financial barriers that prevent people from installing them. Often it's a physical barrier, so there may not be the structural components in your bathroom, or if you're renting, you may not be allowed to permanently adapt your bathroom. And often there's a stigma or design preference. So people don't feel that they need or don't want to install a grab bar because it's there's a stigma around it. So often people don't install it until they've had a fall, or it's kind of beyond the time when it would be useful. So one potential solution to this is temporary rim-mounted grab bars. However, we're not sure about the safety of these. So one of the things is that they're lower on the tub than the acceptable grab bar, horizontal grab bars. So they require you to bend over more, which makes balance challenging, and also may put someone in a more precarious situation. And also it has a single attachment point. So if you have a higher rim-mounted grab bar, if you're applying high forces to the temporary grab bar, we're not sure how much force is required for it to wiggle it off or to have it shift in position. So this study has just started, but it's looking at how temporary grab bars and comparing them to a vertical grab bar, and comparing it again to just using the wall to support yourself, as many people just touch a wall to exit the bathtub, seeing how temporary rim-mounted grab bars, how they compare in terms of balance and falls risk. So overall, again, to reflect back on why are we doing this work? So we want to be able to reduce the risk of falls and to enable independence. So in terms of the step dimensions, in 2015, the building code was changed from 8-inch steps to 10-inch, which is estimated to prevent 13,000 falls and 39 deaths in Canada by 2020, which is amazing. Yeah, and then in terms of handrail height and shape, this is ongoing discussions. There's some additional analysis that needs to be done before making a recommendation to the building code. And ideally, in terms of grab bars, we want there to be mandatory grab bars in homes, but in order to recommend this, we still need to provide evidence to assess the impact of grab bar installation, so how many falls will it actually reduce, and also recommendations for placements or orientation. So thank you very much for listening. If there's any questions, I can answer them.
So thank you very much, Philippa. I must say I'm just about to redo our downstairs bathroom, and I have new ideas now. Thank you. I thought it was fascinating, brilliantly presented so clearly, and you know, for a population attributable fraction of falls and to save 13,000 unnecessary falls, that's all in a good day's work. Congratulations. Thank you. You have a little gift for you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there any way to keep in contact directly with you around any research that you do about grab bar placement? That's an OTE.
Yes.
Grab bars and grab bar placement all the time, like to have standards. Even like publishing a paper like that in a journal, like maybe a lot of
So one of the goals is building code changes, but we also want to, I mean, OTs or PTs are recommending grab bars to clients on a regular basis. So one thing we wanted to do is to create kind of best practices where like optimal solutions, because often even the building code is a minimally acceptable solution. So what you may want to install in your home, you could go something even better. So yes, so you can contact me or anyone at on our team for information, and we do hope to publish. We often do work within Toronto Rehab, but getting a broader message, having more people aware of the research is what we aim for. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you aware that the City of Toronto has actually established a policy of wanting, the word cable disappeared, accessible homes, that it should be mandated within the building code, and that there's a political campaign towards that? Are you aware of it? Or?
So asking if I was aware of the political campaign to increase the number of accessible,
to make it part of the building code,
to make yes.
To
so to make it a part of the building code that all homes have to be accessible or have to have accessible features. So I wasn't aware that the City of Toronto has this campaign.
Well, not a campaign, it's just a policy. They're
not
okay. Doing anything. They just said yes, it's a great idea.
Yeah, so I think that's great. What we would like is for things like that a lot of these features could be implemented in every home and wouldn't necessarily change the look or the anything about the home, but would make it much safer. So that's kind of our ideal situation, is if it's mandated for everyone. Yeah.
You mentioned on an individual basis, there's lots of things that to enhance balance, to prevent falling, and recognizing that you're looking at this from an environmental perspective. How about the other end? What would you recommend for somebody who wants to prevent and doesn't want to fall?
This may be something that I would refer to the OT in the room about. It's
occupational therapy is a profession that address that.
So and physio, I think, as well. Many different clinicians are working towards reducing falls. It's a big part of the clinical world as well. We were at a conference in St. John's, which was made up of mostly clinicians, but also some researchers, all about fall prevention. And there are a number of different ways that you can reduce your risk of falls. So I don't know if you have anything to add.
We're looking at the environment, we're looking at the person, and we're looking at the
So like social work, which is my background, and I'm sure OT has become as highly specialized. How does one access the specialty area of occupational therapy related to that?
So there's government funded occupational therapy where I'm not sure what the requirements are